with Beyond Inclusion, you're going in and you're improving all levels of the school all at the same time. It's working on the safeguarding, it's working on the special needs department, it's working on the ethics, on the behavior. So when you leave or after a school goes through all of your training, all the departments have all improved all at the same time. And I think that's brilliant. I've never seen that done before.
Thank you. And if I can go slightly further than that as well, it's beyond the school.
Today we're here with Dr. Martin Bloomfield, a specialist in neurodiversity, Victoria Rayner, a safeguarding expert, and Sandra Tibbles, a leadership and special educational needs specialist. I'm both excited and honoured to announce that these giants of inclusion have decided to launch a company called Beyond Inclusion, which focuses on dealing with safeguarding, mental health, neurodiversity, behaviour, and ethics in education. I wanted to ask a few questions about what caused them to come together like this. And so I'm going to ask you to jump in anytime. But my first question, which you can throw around, is what inspired you to launch an educational company focusing on such critical topics like safeguarding, mental health, neurodiversity, behaviour and ethics? So who wants to start?
One of the things that I noticed is that much of the talk about neurodiversity is talk about what's wrong with people. It's talk about a deficits-based approach to neurodiversity. And what's really important is that we start looking as a positive way at this subject. We start looking at a neurodivergence and neurodiversity as from a strengths-based approach. At the same time, with ethics, what we'll notice is that often there are ethical conflicts, and the only resource that people have to deal with these ethical conflicts, for instance, an ethical policy. But unless you're actually engaged with the ethics behind that policy, it's really difficult to sort out a conflict where actually the policy doesn't deal with it. You have to deal with it on a personal level. And so it's really useful to help people understand what they mean when they talk about ethics.
We've fallen into a trap of looking at things in silos. So we'll have people very in charge of safeguarding, and they will be looking after safeguarding within their own department. And then we have SEND, and then we have academic outcomes, we have pedagogy. And I think that part of our driver around putting Beyond Inclusion together was drawing together the golden threads of all of those things, and making sure that there was no child left behind if they didn't fit into one of those silos.
My work with schools really identifies that there's some really good practice in different areas of the school, but often things are missed because there might be really good practice in one area, but actually it's not been identified by another area, and sometimes we miss the key piece of the puzzle for a young person in order to remove the barrier to learning. And I think then with that combined approach, then we can be really inclusive. And a lot of my work, I get described as a special educational needs specialist, but actually I believe I'm really about inclusion, because what it is sometimes just putting things together that are inclusive mean that everyone can then benefit. What is essential to some young people is actually beneficial to all young people. So SEND is not about that department or that additional need. What it is it's about enabling and moving barriers and ensuring engagement from all at every level.
I really like that. And when I actually first met Martin on Zoom, we talked about, well, everybody has needs. He said you don't just label a particular group of students, say, oh, well, those students are state mainstream. Everybody has needs. And I love what you said about inclusion. So I'm now going to ask you, and I'm going to ask each and every one of you to answer this question, which is, now, it's a great initiative, but how does it work practically? You've got well-being, you've got safeguarding, you've got ethics, you've got neurodiversity, you've got behavior. My question to you now was, how do you envision your particular company, Beyond Inclusion, making a difference in these particular areas? And what unique approaches do you bring to the table? So I'll ask you guys to answer that question each, please.
Can I start with that one? Just that I think we working, as we've identified in schools working in silo, we were sort of working in silo ourselves to a certain extent, in that we were bringing our three areas. And what we recognised is that when we were delivering training, or we were covering different aspects of school improvement or development, and also with the companies that we work for beyond education as well, we were recognising that we were talking about each other's work. We were talking about we were citing examples from each other's work. We were talking very much about all of those areas, and I think so for us it was key to just bring all of those areas together under one umbrella, really, to support the young people and schools and organisations to be more inclusive.
I love that. I love the fact that you said, departments can sometimes, they're working in the same school, but there's no conversation, there's no dialogue, there's no communication. And the fact that you're citing each other shows that there's great practice happening, but there is no communication. So, Martin.
Well, I mean, exactly what Sandra says. It's impossible to talk about safeguarding without talking about ethics.
True.
It's impossible to talk about ethics without talking about the mental health and social emotional needs of children. And so it just seems the right thing to do, and the obvious thing to do. Because when I work with Sandra and when I work with Vic, I learn from Sandra and I learn from Vic. And hopefully they learn from me when they work with me as well. And so what we're doing is we're becoming more than the sum of our parts.
I think for me, our unique approach is around, we really want to get to know the schools and the organisations that we're working with. We don't have a one-size-fits-all. You won't find Beyond Inclusion selling you a product that is going to fit your school in the same way that it's going to fit everybody else's school. We want to work to develop whole school, unique, bespoke programmes, and work that through from a baseline evaluation, but working alongside staff, so staff don't feel done to, staff don't feel like we are people that are going to come in and tell you how to do it. We really want to work together with organisations to identify strengths in their own practice and be able to build on those strengths, and also be able to identify where some of those gaps are, and help organisations recognise where they need to add extra resource. So really for me, Beyond Inclusion is about working in a way that is sustainable moving forward. So we really hope to have a really big community of Beyond Inclusion believers and people that we've worked with, so we can support each other, and also we can have the community support each other as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important with all of the organisations that we work with that we are trying to embed the same thing that we would do for students, which is that intrinsic motivation for change, and also just develop efficacy in staff so that they feel they own the improvement process. It's not that we've come in and we've taught them something and or whatever, but it's more about actually we work alongside and we mentor and we coach and we develop. I think that's probably a style or an approach that we would take.
And in doing that, we build communities of practice. And when we build communities of practice, one of the things that I've noticed is I learn from the people that I work with. So I don't just go in there and tell them things. I go in there and I learn, and these things that I learn, I can then pass on to others, and then I can learn. And these communities of practice, this network of knowledge, this builds.
Can I just add about the communities of practice? I think one of the things that is really good, because we get to, we're lucky that we get to work in lots of different places in the world. I think we also are learning constantly about context, but also we're learning about different approaches, and it's we're in a privileged position, but we're then able to share that, and I think that's really, really important.
I'm now going to talk to you about a topic that I'm very passionate about, which is technology. And I want to ask you, in what ways do you see technology playing a role in addressing and promoting awareness about safeguarding, mental health, neurodiversity, behaviour and ethics?
So if I take that from a safeguarding and wellbeing perspective, there's been a lot of talk recently about technology, mobile phones. I am a huge advocate of ensuring we raise responsible digital citizens in the future. Technology is here, it's here to stay, it's developing more rapidly than it has ever done before. And I think from a Beyond Inclusion perspective, we want to stay one step ahead of that. We want to keep our eye on the landscape, so we're able to respond to things like AI, deep fakes, and how that has impacts on safeguarding policies in school, out of school, and these will undoubtedly have an impact on mental health and wellbeing. So certainly from my perspective and my role within Beyond Inclusion, it's about being really forward thinking about what might be coming over the hill, and trying to take some of the fear away, because we can't just get rid of technology, because it's the safest thing to do is to not let children have it. So we need to think about the way in which we raise our responsible digital citizens, and working with other partners as well, because I think that one of the things that we will do as an organisation is that we're very outward looking. We collaborate with some great people in the technology field, so we will definitely be working with people who are able to support our values and our beliefs, and how we can get that learning about technology and what's coming in the future into schools, and support our staff in schools with that.
And if I can say, from what Vic said, I mean, it's very important. The great educational philosopher John Dewey once said that if we teach our children, or if we teach today's children for our yesterdays, we rob them of their tomorrow. And this is a really important point, that so many people are frightened of technology, so many people are frightened of mobile phones. And as Vic said, we shouldn't be removing them. We should be teaching people how to use it responsibly. And teachers should be able to know that. Technology is changing the landscape of education, especially for those kids who maybe found traditional education difficult, who maybe found reading and writing difficult, who maybe found auditory processing difficult or visual processing difficult. Technology can help with that. So we need to help guide people and enable people to use technology as best they can.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're often afraid of things that are new or we don't know, or are emerging, but actually technology can be really enabling, and it can actually you actually then can get a real feeling of the strengths of a young person that otherwise you hadn't seen. And I think it's therefore so important.
I love the fact that you guys are you're not shying away from it. You're embracing technology, and you know, and such a healthy and such a positive way of looking at it. Because you're right, we can't take it away. You know, we can't tell the students, right, mobile phones at the door, and then that's it. I mean, you're hindering them. You know, there's so many, as Martin and I talked last time about, so many applications that help special needs students. Even just text to speech, even just that can go such a long way in helping a young person to learn, to develop the knowledge of language and even morphology. And the fact that you as a company are embracing that and have that values-based approach. These are our values. How can they be achieved through the use of technology? I think that's brilliant.
I think if I can just add that education should be about preparing young people for adulthood, and it should be about preparing them for adulthood from the earliest of years. So therefore, you know, it should be about enabling them to uncover and discover about themselves, rather than just measuring an output that we believe is the appropriate way of measuring that output. You mentioned text to speech. And there's just one example, actually. There's so many barriers for young people to be able to show what they're truly capable of.
Marty, I thought you'd mention something about AI, because last time we spoke about technology, that kind of came up.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I'm involved in writing a paper at the moment with a group of academics from Germany and the Netherlands, and we're critical of the blind rush into AI. There are dangers of neuronormative bias, and there are dangers of neuronormative expectations. We already know that AI looks at autistic children and dyslexic children in a negative way, and we can demonstrate this quite clearly. And so where this bias is factored into the algorithms that create the AI, what we have to do is we have to be very careful of that, and that's partly where the ethics comes in. So yeah, technology is really exciting, and there's an awful lot for us to get from technology, but at the same time we have to go in there with our eyes wide open, and we have to be able to understand what we're doing and understand the inequalities that can be factored into the use of technology and the creation of technology if we're not careful about it.
Well, my next question will be that how do you ensure that your educational programs from Beyond Inclusion are inclusive themselves and accessible to individuals from diverse backgrounds and those with different learning needs?
Well, one of the ways is that I particularly, myself, I have different learning needs. I went through a school system which was terrible for me. I was traumatized by school because my learning needs are different. At the same time, We work cross-culturally, so we work internationally and across cultures. When we say cross-culture, we don't just mean internationally, we mean cultures within countries as well. So we work cross-culturally, we work internationally, and we all have experience of the traumatic nature of education. And we're here to listen. This is one of the important things. As we said earlier, we're not just here to tell people what to do, we're here to learn from people and to learn from different practitioners in different contexts.
We were having a conversation yesterday actually about accessibility of any courses or learning opportunities that Beyond Inclusion want to put forward. So I'm really pleased that you actually asked that question, Aslom, so thank you. But from a very practical perspective, you know, anything that we put online, we would like to have closed captions to make sure people are able to access that in that way. We'd like to move forward and partner with some organisations who are able to produce some signing for anything that we do. And obviously, as we move forward, you know, we hope that our accessibility becomes even wider, such as Braille and, you know, various other accessibility measures as well. So I think we're very, very open and aware of the things that we would like to do, but what we would really actually like to do is consult with the people who will be accessing our courses and make sure that what we're offering is what they require, rather than us assuming that what we're offering is what they want.
In some of the training during this particular trip, actually, over here in Doha, I've been talking to people about professional curiosity, and I think we are professionally curious. We don't have all the answers. We don't know what even all the questions are yet. And I think that we are, as Vic was saying, we're really open to working to make all of our offer more inclusive as we're able to and as we're finding out what the needs are.
One of the things I admire about your company, I'm just going to say this, which is the reason I wanted to sit down with you, was the fact that it's a whole school approach. You know, it's looking at schooling holistically, because when you guys go in with your courses, whether it's face-to-face training or if it's accessible online, whatever training you do, the entire school benefits, and it's all at the same time. Now, often what happens is with the school is that through an inspection or they just come out of one and they say, oh, this is our target for improvement. And the training will just focus on that one area of improvement, often on the also of everything else. Whereas with Beyond Inclusion, you're going in and you're improving all levels of the school all at the same time. It's working on the safeguarding, it's working on the special needs department, it's working on the ethics, on the behaviour. So when you leave or after a school goes through all of your training, all the departments have all improved synonymously all at the same time. And I think that's brilliant. I've never seen it done before.
Thank you. And if I can go slightly further than that as well, it's beyond the school. So the parents are involved, the community is involved. So yes, we like to take a whole school approach, but we don't stop at the walls of the school. We don't stop at the school gates. It's really important.
And we spoke about recently, what does inclusion look like after school, you know, in the recruitment and in the employment. So the very fact that you have this drive to, it doesn't stop at the school gates, you know, suddenly a student no longer has needs after they've left. Suddenly safeguarding is no longer an issue. Of course it's an issue. It continues to be an issue in recruitment, continues to be an issue in the world of employment as well. So why should that conversation stop there? And I think the fact that you guys are focusing on that, and that's one of your values, I think that's brilliant.
Context is really important to us as an organisation, and I go back to the point that I made earlier about how each school will be approached with fresh eyes, and it's really important that we work with a school to maintain their individuality and to maintain a sense of who they are, and in order for us to do that, we need to understand the context of the community. So contextual safeguarding is a hugely important thing that we talk about. So for us to not take inclusion to a contextual level would be really remiss of us. So I think that some of the work that we've done in some of the countries that we've been in is to reach out, and we've had really, really good contact with parents who have come in and been really, really open to advice and asking us questions. And hopefully what we can do is help bridge that gap between the school and the parents as well, because we're external and we can help facilitate some of those question and answer sessions as well.
I think it's fantastic that you're taking context into question and into consideration rather, because safeguarding will, you know, that's a very important factor. When I was safeguarding lead in the UK, it's very different to the training I received when I came on the international field. It's a completely different conversation, and it's not, you know, often safeguarding might be well, what's your school's policy on it? What training have you had? But the community isn't taken into consideration, but it really should, because they're part of that conversation, and the fact that Beyond Inclusion are doing that, I think that's really commendable.
And I think from a safeguarding perspective, Beyond Inclusion is very important. So we've delivered some training out here in Doha around level 3 safeguarding DSL training, and we really want to push people beyond that compliancy aspect. We want to push them into building culture. So in the UK we have frameworks around child protection, around what happens if we have concerns about a child, where we can put referrals together and we can request some early help, or we can request some assessments if it reaches that level. Here we don't have those frameworks, so what we have to do is we have to work with schools to be ultra sustainable and be really creative in how they support children. So the training that we've delivered has been really insightful, and as much as I hope that I've given some knowledge and skills around safeguarding, the contextual information that I'll take away has been absolutely priceless as well. But what I will say with schools in international settings where we don't have that safeguarding framework externally, the work that they do to creatively build a culture of safety within their schools, I think that there is some practice that we can actually take back to the UK, and we can actually share that across globally. So we're really excited to connect people as well.
My next question relates to actually any success stories you've had or impactful outcomes resulting from Beyond Inclusion's work.
I think one of the things that I often identify when I go into schools and I audit or I visit is I ask a lot of questions, and I ask them not from a place of judgment. I ask them as a professional partner, or because I'm curious, but because actually those questions lead to more questions, and that's really interesting, because often I'm brought in for one thing and then it becomes about something else or something. And I think what I really like is that we're able to connect some of the dots for schools or organisations that they haven't perhaps seen were there. And kind of one of the key things I want to talk about is just that sense of establishing belonging within an organisation in a school, and how powerful that is, and how that spans all of our areas of expertise. Is that if you can establish an environment where young people feel they belong, that they don't need to have to change in order to belong, because they can be their authentic selves, then that certainly removes barriers. It improves the engagement, and it leads to results for schools. And it's lovely when you see that kind of light bulb moment, or that, and it's not something that we've said, oh look, this is how it happens. It's that you help people to come to that realization through their own work, because their practice is really positive, but you're just connecting it for them.
One of the brightest moments in our lives, and for me, for Vic, for Sandra, one of the brightest moments is when people come to us and say, we've used what you've talked about. We've adapted what we do in the way, and then it's worked, and people are happier. It's less overwhelming. It's less dysregulating. We've got happier, more inclusive education system. This is really what we do this for.
I can tell you that from your time in Doha, from what I've seen, the responses just on LinkedIn alone, it's been such a positive experience where teachers have, like you said, I've seen teachers have light bulb moments where they think, wow, I can relate to that, I can connect with that, and I want to actually learn more. And so, your time in Doha has been really valued. And I was saying to a colleague that it's like, you've got 3 educational superstars that are in Doha at the same time, and the shame is that you can't go to all the sessions at the same time because they're happening concurrently. Okay, that's the shame, because you want to be in all places all at the same time, because the sessions are so fantastic, and the feedback, I've only seen glimpses, is fantastic. And the teachers are, they've said, well, 3 hours isn't enough. So I can tell on a very general level that your time here has been really valued, and I think I speak for everybody who's attended the courses. They wish they were all, everywhere all at once. What's that movie? Yeah.
Thank you.
That really means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question relates to, so how do you measure the effectiveness of your programs in terms of promoting positive change and awareness of safeguarding mental health, neurodiversity, behaviour and ethics.
I think our success is measured with these success criteria that the schools actually set themselves. So we're not going in with a set of KPIs or a set of metrics that we want to kind of tick against. What we want to do is we want to work with schools to evaluate where their areas of improvement are and what does success look like for them. So success for us is when a school can say, actually, we've met our vision and we are sustaining that vision. And actually, in order to get to the next step, let's talk about where we are and what we need to do to get that. So really, from a beyond inclusion perspective, we're not a one size fits all. We are bespoke and we want to work with schools to help schools reach their vision, because inclusion is going to look different wherever we go.
I was talking to Leo Thompson and he said that's a similar approach that the CIS take, which is as evaluators, where do you want to be as a school, right? That's the conversation. How can we get there together? Yeah. It's not about, it's what's your, there's shared criteria, but it's more about where do you want to be. And I love the fact that I can't wait for you to go back into a school that you've worked with 6 months, a year later. Right, let's see where we are, shall we? And I can guarantee you that they're going to be like, we can't wait to show you all the fantastic things we put into place following on from your session.
This is really interesting because, as we've just said, success has a currency. There's always a currency of success, and there's lots of different currencies around the world. And so there's not just one currency per organization. Success means different things. But when you go into an organization and you see the success that they've had, you may find they've now switched and they want something else. You may find that we've now discovered something else that we can develop together. And so it's an ongoing organic process.
And it's about professional dialogue. It's about professional dialogue. It's about listening as much as it's about delivering. And it's not about placing judgment. It's about hearing and supporting and enabling.
And connecting as well. So what we've got a real vision of being able to work with a number of different schools and organisations globally. And actually, if we see things that are very similar, we want to connect those people so we can work through those things together. Because we believe actually that there is power and benefit in those numbers. So we really are keen to connect those people together. So not only are they learning from us and us from them, but people are learning from each other as well.
We've all found that there's certain problems that some schools can solve, but that other schools can't, and that they've got challenges that they can't solve that another school can. And all we need to do is bring them together.
On that note of connecting, I'm going to give a little shout out to someone who we all know, which is Ira Myford, who's brought us, we are having this conversation because of ILM Connect, actually Word of Connect, because she's managed to connect all of us. And it's very unique because I've been in Qatar for 10 years. Nothing like this has ever been done before, where educators are brought together. And that concept of, we all share this idea that individually we're great, but together, if we're connected, having conversations and dialogue, then it's brilliant. So I would really urge the viewers to check out ILM Connects because they're doing fantastic work.
Beyond inclusion exists in with ILM Connect. We work really closely with ILM Connect, and again it allows us to sustain our work in Qatar moving forward. And we would, on behalf of hopefully Martin and Sandra, we want to take this opportunity to extend our thanks to IRAM and ILM Connect for everything that they've done for us as well in order to bring us here.
I'm going to ask two final questions, which is one. Now, I'm only going to give you about a minute to speak because otherwise the answers will be here all day, which is great, but we've only got a certain bit of tape recording. So what do you enjoy about your role and what you do with Beyond Inclusion? And I'll ask you to go around the table.
I enjoy seeing young people engage in education, re-engage sometimes in education, and that path to success. And I enjoy those moments where someone comes up to me and says, actually, you just made me think slightly differently about something. Sometimes it's just planting a seed or just making someone feel a slightly different way about things, because I think often you don't remember what someone has delivered in training that they've said to you, but my goodness, do you remember the way someone in training made you feel in that moment? And that, for me, I think that's key to why I love what I do, and I feel really privileged to do what I do, actually, by the way. It's a real privilege going to visit schools. It's a real privilege meeting lots of educators and professionals, and it's a real opportunity to for self growth and learning as well.
Well, I can echo everything that Sandra says, but I particularly enjoy working with school leaders to empower them to look at strategy in a different way, because if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. So I really enjoy working on leaders who want to make that change and help them make those changes in a way that feels safe, and but helping them recognise the journey and not just focus on the destination. So I think that that's really important as well, because with the work that we're doing, we know that it isn't overnight work, and we know that it's not work that's going to have an impact within a week or maybe 2 weeks or a month or a half term, but we know that there's going to be incremental changes that is going to benefit, you know, everybody across the school community by having inclusion as a focus. I absolutely believe that safeguarding, wellbeing and mental health is the driver that will push children and their families in the community into better places. If I would be a social worker or a police officer if I believed that it was just about the safety aspect of it, but I believe that children who are happy and children who are looked after and children who are safe are children who learn better. And working with Sandra and with Martin to understand the other implications on learning and curriculum means that we have that real holistic approach. So, you know, really my why of Beyond Inclusion is being able to bring those threads together for something really special and really unique.
That's beautiful, actually. Yeah,
that is beautiful.
I wish I could top that.
Martin, good luck.
So I think the thing that makes me happy, the thing that makes me smile, the thing that I find fulfilling about this is helping others, and myself, by the way, helping all of us see the perspectives that others have, see the way that other people engage with things. So people engage with learning differently. People engage with other people differently. People engage with each other's actions differently. We interpret our actions differently. We interpret what learning means differently. And to be able to help all of us open up our minds and open up what it means to be able to connect with other people. So when I see teachers understanding what other teachers mean, or when I see teachers understanding what other students mean, essentially by what you might call the same practice from different perspectives, then that brings people together. It allows one person to suddenly understand somebody else, and when they understand each other, they can work better together and they can have a more fulfilling life together. And that's really what fulfills me from the work we do. And I think the why that comes from that is, and I know this sounds like a really cheesy thing, but I just want to make the world a better place. You know, I mean, I know it's cheesy, but I want to make the world a better place. And I know what it feels like to feel excluded. And I don't want that to happen to anybody.
I'm going to say my why now because I feel a bit like I should, which is, and what do I enjoy? This. Apart from my role as a teacher, getting teachers and giving educators just a platform to say their whys and to say what they do has been phenomenal. Yeah. And my podcast with you, all of my students watched it, and there were students in the UK that watched it, and they commented. They said, they came in, they go, "So we watched the podcast. We had no idea that you're terrified of maths." I said, "Yeah, I told you this." To go, "Yeah, but," and you talked about anxiety. We thought that only us young people felt that. I said, no, teachers feel it too. And just seeing that reaction in the young people and then in the teachers, I watched the podcast. That was so good because I'd never thought about that. I'd never thought about making connections. You got me to look up what neurodiversity is, and all these conversations have. Well, it's been an honor for me to get teachers talking about and to have all the brilliant work that educators are doing, yourselves and everyone else has been on this podcast. To see the reactions among young people and among teachers has been phenomenal. And you asked me why did I set this up, and I was sorting this all out. I said because I really, really want the work that you're doing to be put out there. I want everybody to know, and all the schools that genuinely, and we talked about sincerity yesterday, the idea of sincerity, all the schools that sincerely want to improve, sincerely want to improve the well-being, the safeguarding, the special needs departments, to really take heed and to pay attention to beyond inclusion, and to reach out to you and say, right, these are our values, these are our goals, how can we improve?
And thank you as
Yeah,
well
thank you.
for giving us this opportunity, and what you do is really important when we're talking about connection. So we've talked about connection in lots of different ways, and I think you absolutely embody what it is that we're trying to say around important connecting people using technology. So thank you for that.
The final thing I'd like to ask you is final words. Final words. What's the last thing you'd like to say on this podcast before we wrap up, Martin?
I'd just like to say thank you. I'd like to say thank you to all the schools in Doha who've welcomed us. I'd like to say thank you to IRAM, MIFED and ILM. I'd like to say thank you to basically to the, again, it sounds cheesy, but the beautiful people, because they've been absolutely lovely. They're really keen, and they've been so welcoming, and I feel so honoured to be here.
I just echo everything Martin says, because we're so grateful to have so many people supporting us already. And I'd just like to say I'm really looking forward to coming back next year and being able to come back and bring people that we've worked with us to be able to tell you what the impact is that Beyond Inclusion has had on their organisations. And we hope that we're able to work with lots of people in lots of different places and be able to connect those people together. So we hope that we'll be invited back next year.
And I don't think I've got anything to add, because you so eloquently summed it all up. So it's just a thank you, but a really heartfelt thank you.